podcast that you're listening to is being presented to you in cooperation with the SJ Network. If you're a person who'd like to appear on a podcast, contact Stephen Joyner at s-j-network.com. Let's get on with the show.
This week on Too Many Podcasts, it's a return visit from actor Michael Spedden, who hosts the Fowl Players Radio podcast. Michael also hosts a radio show on 97underground.com called Back of the Rack. I was actually going to read a list of my favorite heavy metal bands, but I couldn't carry it off of my desk. I think it's full of Led Zeppelin.
Welcome to Too Many Podcasts, the podcast about podcasts. Now, podcasting from the Sherpa Chalet on Mount Podcastia, here's your host, Jim, the podcast Sherpa.
Hello there, rebels of the Sherpolution, and welcome to Too Many Podcasts. It is the podcast about podcasts and so much more. La la! Hello, it's me, Jim, the podcast Sherpa, coming to you from Sherpaloo Studios, high atop Mount Podcastia, where we will be checking out all the podcasts from here and yon across the lands of Podcastia. And we've got a great guest who I will be talking about in just a minute. But first, I'd like to tell you about something that I've been up to lately. I think this is pretty universal with a lot of people. You wake up, the alarm goes off, and, you get out of bed, but you're just tired, right? You can't focus. Everything is kind of foggy. You're kind of going through the motions, right? When you're getting ready for work, you're getting all dressed and whatever you need to do in your morning routine. And even throughout the day, you just feel kind of like a zombie, right? You're really not there. Don't you hate that feeling? It's not fun. The whole time you're thinking, I need a nap, right? You can't go through life like that. And, I've been checking something out probably for about a week now, and it is called Magic Mind. And it is a 2-ounce shot that you drink, and it is made with matcha and a whole bunch of other ingredients that are good for you, and they really help improve your alertness and motivation and focus and productivity. They actually call it a productivity drink, and I'd probably be hard-pressed to find an argument against that. Now, first thing you're thinking, well, it's like, wait a minute, you're going to get all hopped up on caffeine and sugar, right? Is that why you're bouncing around and you're going to crash later on in the day? No. That's not how this works, folks. Magic Mind has a very minimal amount of caffeine, much less than your morning cup of coffee. You can actually take it alongside of your morning cup of coffee or in place of your cup of coffee if you want to. Now, I'm not a coffee drinker at all, actually. I prefer tea because I'm civilized. I don't know. And I've been trying this stuff after I eat my breakfast, and I take a quick sip of it, just shake it up and drink it. And the first day I noticed, wow, I'm awake, and I'm not jittery or jumpy. My heart's not racing or anything like that. I was doing a little research. It doesn't affect your heart. It doesn't affect your liver. You don't get like the sugar crash or caffeine crash that you might get with some other drinks. This is just like a natural kind of waking up. It makes you feel more alert. And that was the way that I felt for a good portion of the day. The folks at Magic Mind, they actually call it flow state. I like that, kind of yoga-ish. Maybe if I'm doing yoga, I can do some Magic Mind. I don't know, but I don't know if that's the purpose. But anyway, I didn't feel that fog at all. I noticed things around me. And I think once you have that clarity, that really improves your focus and you can take things on without feeling just so overwhelmed. There are ingredients in this drink like matcha, which contains way less caffeine than coffee. And it has additional compounds called catechins, and they extend the benefits of caffeine by slowing your body's ability to absorb it, as well as a compound called L-theanine that reduces stress. Lower stress, hello. And these compounds work together to prevent that spike in cortisol levels and the inevitable crash that come from ingesting too much caffeine. So it's not a big caffeine thing. Matcha is basically nature's extended release version of caffeine. I didn't know that. Pretty interesting. And there's a lot of other cool ingredients that I will probably mispronounce, but I know they will help you reduce your stress and anxiety, improve your attention span, reduce fatigue, reduce inflammation, and even strengthen your immune system. And I was telling some people that I'd been taking this stuff, and they said, "This sounds really interesting. I always feel like that in the morning." So I'm sure people could definitely relate. You're going to want to do your homework and see what your experience is going to be with Magic Mind. But what you can do, I'm going to make this nice and easy for you. There is a link in my show notes, and only this January they will help you gear up to crush your 2024 New Year's resolutions fully focused. Fully focused, rebels. You hear me? I sound fully focused, right? Because I've been taking the Magic Mind. And you get 1 month for free when you're subscribing for 3 months. You go to www.magicmind.com/Jan, Jan for January, and Too Many Podcasts right after that. And with my code, Too Many Podcasts 20, it's an extra 20% off, which gets you to a 75% off. This offer only lasts until the end of January, so hurry up before it goes away. So take Magic Mind and stop walking around like a zombie. Have a little focus. Focus, rebels, focus. Now, on to my guest today.
Who's our guest today, Sherpa?
His name is Michael Spedden. He is the host of the Fowl Players Radio podcast, and he's got a whole bunch of new gigs coming on, and we hadn't actually had a conversation since 2020, believe it or not. And if you want to check out our original episode, it was in season 5, I believe, episode 12. And Mike's done a lot in his career, a really interesting guy. I get emails from this site called Quora, not a sponsor or anything like that. It's kind of like Reddit, where people ask questions. And I think every other day I get the email, "Who's the rudest celebrity you've ever met?" But they never ask about the nicest ones. Probably one of the nicest guys that I've done this podcast with has got to be Michael Spedden. Gentle giant, a lot of fun and super nice. And you'll hear that in the interview, and you'll also get to hear about all the things that he's been up to. He's actually been on the radio as well, underground radio, underground97.com. And we talk a lot about some metal music if you guys are into metal. I better stop that. I might get sued by ASCAP. So let's have a listen to my conversation with my friend, Mr. Michael Spedden of Fowl Players Radio. Hello there, Rebels. Welcome to the Fowl Players Room. And what are we talking about, Fowl Players Room? We've got the man who is the king of Fowl Players Radio. And, when we spoke in December of 2020, by the way, I checked this out. That was when the episode aired. And there was this alleged pandemic that was going around the world or something like that. And this man, who is a definitely the definition of a working man's actor, had everything was shut down for him, but now he literally got about 8,000 projects going on at once. He's got his Fowl Players Radio podcast. He's got his Fowl Players Murder Mystery Tour. He's got a radio show called At the Back of the Rack on 97.
Back of the Rack on 97 Underground, yeah.
And still doing all the acting and TV and movies and all that other fun stuff. His name is Michael Spedden. He's back.
Well, Mr. Sherpa, it's great to see you again. It's been a good while. It's been 3 years at least now, like almost 3.5, I guess. And I've been pretty busy. I've been I'm always able to find something to do, whether it's lucrative or not. But I always find something that I think is worthwhile. Podcasting, I've been doing that. Since pandemic, I've tapered it off a good bit. Mm-hmm. During pandemic, I was putting out like 100 episodes a year. Now I'm down to about 25 to 30. I'd say roughly around in the 30s. I think last year, I think I did 36 episodes, and I had a couple of spells when I was working on other things where I just couldn't do it. But I'm still at that Fowl Players Radio. And I'm having a good time with it. I'm having a good time with it still. Enjoyable getting to meet people, getting to meet new people all the time, just hearing their stories and talking about their what they do in the arts and entertainment world. I just love that kind of stuff,
Yeah, and you're the ideal person to talk to because you've got that background of a working actor, and you can really probably empathize with these people that are coming on about the whole entertainment field. That nothing is new to you. There's not much that's going to shock you.
Right. Well, the thing is, having a background, it seems like working is in my background more and more lately. But hey, I'm still getting some stuff. I just had a movie come out. It is on Amazon Prime. Called Lachrymose Primrose. It's a horror movie, more of a psychological thriller type of movie. And I play a radio personality. Why not? I play a radio personality. The movie takes place in upstate New York in the Catskills.
Okay.
And unfortunately, there were no references to the resorts and the great entertainment of the Borscht Belt, which is a whole legend in itself up
Absolutely.
there. I love hearing those stories, and I love talking to people who have performed there. But this movie, I play a DJ, a radio DJ, and I report on the things going on. We'll just leave it at that. You should come get it on Amazon to see it. They're gonna, like Leave It to Beaver say, they're gonna holler at me if I give away too much. So, even though it is out, you have to, you let the people come. You can't tell the whole story. That's why they make a movie, not for me to tell the story.
That's it. You just throwing out a few breadcrumbs.
Exactly, throwing out a few breadcrumbs. Throwing out a few feelers to get some interest, to have people go, what? A movie? Okay, let's go see it. So I've got that going on. Lachrymose Primrose.
Okay.
And I actually was in it with as I joined the project late, but actually two of my murder mystery actors were in it. And then when I signed on to do my part, I was actually in my scene with another one of my Fowl players. So it's the Fowl players took over the project, and it turned out well, I think. The director and producer Johnny Ellenberger took it to a bunch of festivals and other work in the festival circuit, and he got a few awards, I believe, and he got good reviews from people. So people enjoyed it. People enjoyed it, and I had a good time filming my part too. So my part's really more of a cameo than it really is having much to do with the storyline. But that turned out well. But I also not just play a DJ in movies.
Okay.
I'm not a doctor, but I play one on TV. I'm actually I'm actually a DJ now on 97 Underground. Baltimore's pure rock worldwide. We're a heavy metal station, and we're not on the air. We're not terrestrial anymore. We're online. We're internet radio.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an interesting story with 97 Underground. 97 Underground actually started by a man named Tom Pless. He was a radio engineer in the late 60s and early 70s, and ended up teaching electronics at a high school, and had an interest in radio, was teaching the kids about radio, and they had a radio station in the school where they would read the announcements in the morning, play music during lunch, and they would man the turntables and, treat it like it was a radio station. Well, then the county school system actually had a communications tower, and he ended up linking into that tower and broadcasting in a small area. It was within like a zip code. They were able to broadcast part-time. It started off being just on weekends, from like 6:00 Friday evening to 6:00 Monday morning. Okay, but then it grew. They got a bigger tower. They were able to piggyback with the college's tower, and they were able to expand, and they were the first radio station in this country to play Metallica, the first to play Guns N' Roses. And these bands, when they came to town, noticed the following. They would sponsor shows they were packed. You know, the people that were headbangers at the time, you know, got what they wanted, and they embraced the station. And the other thing that he did, if you were in a local band, you know, in the Baltimore area is really where it started. If you're in the Baltimore area band, if you submitted your tapes and they were good, you know, they had to be decent quality. They couldn't be just a boombox and a band practice tape. You know, they had to be a studio quality tape. Mm-hmm. You could have your songs played, and it wasn't just a local, you know, talent hour like a lot of radio stations did. You know, you were put in there between Guns N' Roses and Metallica on the regular playing station, you know, on the regular station's course of playing music during the day. And you could also call in and have your name, your band's name. They would do like the concert or the show, like the live concert roll or whatever, and they would read off who's playing where for the week or the month or whatever. They would do that as well. You know, they were embraced for a long time. And in the early 90s, they ended up, you know, the hair band thing kind of started to fade. The alternative grunge stuff started coming in. They moved frequencies, and then the station ended up getting sold, and they kind of, that format kind of went away. Right. And fast forward to 2015, they came back, and a number of the personalities from back in those days came back. And we're back. As a matter of fact, I was emceeing a couple of months ago for Slaughter. Slaughter came to backseat events down in Winchester, Virginia, and I went and emceed the show, interviewed them on my show, both on the podcast and on my radio show. And Zebra just got elected to the Long Island Hall of Fame for music.
Randy Jackson.
Randy Jackson, yeah. Yep. I got to hang out with Randy Jackson and Felix Hanneman the other night.
Sure.
And the funny thing about that was they played in Annapolis, Maryland. You know, I'm a behemoth. I'm 6'6". Okay. And I came out on stage, and they had me introduce Zebra to the crowd. Packed house. Okay. Felix Hanneman, I don't know his exact height, but when I walked out on stage, I had to use his mic to introduce the band, and it came up to below my sternum. Okay. So I went over and I stood there. I walked out in front of the mic, and I stood there, and I looked down at the mic. And I looked back at everybody, and then people started laughing. And so I bent down like a giraffe drinking out of a lake, and I grabbed the microphone, and I said, well, they're a great band, but apparently not a very tall one. And everybody, the place just erupted. And they put on a hell of a show, and I got to meet them and hang out with them and stuff. And yeah, I've had Randy as a guest on both my 97 show. So my 97 Underground show is called The Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden show. It's on Tuesdays, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern, and you can download the free app, 97underground.com. And there's a bunch of different shows on during the week. You know, we're actually, you know, all the time. Different personalities, and everybody kind of has their own niche when it comes to hard rock. They call it pure rock. There's a lot of bands on there that aren't really like Metallica or anything like that, but they're bands like I've heard them play like Grand Funk, April Wine, you know, heavier edged bands. It doesn't always have to be death metal or anything like that.
Like early classic rock, right?
Right. Classic rock that evolved into T-Rex, Mott the Hoople, UFO, Slade is a big one that I play, Deep Purple, Uriah Heep, that kind of stuff. There are other guys that play nothing but death metal, you know, the Swedish death metal with the growling Cookie Monster vocals. So everybody's kind of has their own niche, but it's all hard rock and heavy metal on the show. And we also have, there was a show called Metal Shop that was on in the 80s that I believe we just picked up. You know, Metal Shop, the only show with teeth. We got them now. Okay. And as a matter of fact, I think they're on Mondays at 4:00. So I think that starts next week, I believe. That's what the general manager told me. So we've got a good station, and we've been out emceeing and sponsoring shows with both national and local acts in the Baltimore area. But also we do branch outside of that because we're not just terrestrial. We're not just in Baltimore anymore. We are nationwide, and we've got demographics and statistics from all over the country, all over the world. Close to 500,000 listeners on a regular basis. And, in a lot of big metro areas like Baltimore, New York, and LA, Atlanta, doing quite well. So I'm very happy. I'm really enjoying this experience here. And I have a lot of the guests, a lot of the musical guests that I have on 97, I have on Fowl Players Radio. On 97, I can play their songs in between segments. Fowl Players, I don't have the ASCAP license, so we just do an interview. It's a little bit longer interview with no music on Fowl Players. On 97, shorter interview, but with music in it. So that's kind of how it works. So I've been real happy with it. I've been having a ball doing this, because even back in the late 80s and early 90s, and the bands I was in back then, we used to get airplay on 97 Underground, and we were actually interviewed in there. And a friend of mine actually gave me a cassette tape of the interview. They actually recorded it when we were on the air the one time. And I was such an ass back then. I was on the, I actually have it on the Fowl Players Radio YouTube page. The episode is on there, the 97 Underground interview. With my band Orange Seed Parade that we had back then. I also did a good interview with the owner and founder of 97 Underground. And, so it's been a blast so far. I really enjoyed doing this, and really having an opportunity to meet people. I've been playing a lot of local bands, from back in the day and currently on the show, as well as my classic stuff. I kind of call the show the Back of the Rack, songs you forgot you liked, classics that never die, and beloved up and coming or classic local, regional, and underground bands. Okay. And so that kind of describes the Back of the Rack there. And but yeah, you can download it on your phone and listen wherever you go.
Do you have like a top 5 desert island collection? Like if 5 albums you can't live without?
Something, I was thinking about that the other day, and I've got some from my past, but then I've got some nowadays that I just got to know these bands and hear their stuff. And some of the ones that I've just been turned on to or newer albums or ones, there's one band I really, really like, and I got to interview and meet them, Frozen Tears from Melbourne, Australia. They have an album out called Brazen Whisper, which is just phenomenal. Absolutely wonderful. There's another band called Escape the Hive. They're out of Arizona. Really, really good stuff. Really, really good stuff there. Let me see. Red Dye Number 9. They're guys we used to play shows with in Baltimore years ago. Made a comeback in the last 3 calendar years. They put out 2 albums. They're both very, very good. Oh, let me see. Chatterbox is a band I kind of just met. They gave me some stuff that's really good. Another band that made a comeback from. Everybody's making comebacks nowadays with social media and everything. We're getting the band, another group called Tainted Saints. But I have to say, like going back to the old days, Tainted Saints, they're ones that we used to play with them back in the day too. They just made a comeback. They're somebody got a hold of their material and liked them and signed them to a record contract, 30 years later.
Wow.
And it's amazing how the internet works nowadays, And then I had, let me see, but of all time, Iron Maiden, UFO, Rush, Deep Purple, those are all my bands there. Slade, of course, Judas Priest, Saxon. Let me see. Okay, and then even going back to the Beatles and the Turtles and, all those guys back then, Hendrix, just amazing stuff,
Yeah. That's interesting, that, I mean, even just that listing of the bands that you gave, that's something that I think a lot of radio stations don't do. Either they get kind of locked in an era and there was like nothing new that came after that. But, here you're talking about 97 Underground and it's like, the classic rock and then the brand new stuff that you're going to hear with these, up and coming local bands and even ones that, like you said, bands that you should be listening to, especially if you're, into any sort of rock.
Right. Well, the thing is that you always hear people in our age group saying, man, there's no more good music nowadays. Right. There's no new good music. Well, yes, there is. Yes, there is. I can reach up on my shelf and grab you 5 CDs you should really listen to, especially if you're in our age group and like the stuff that we liked growing up. Right. These guys are right up that alley, and they will not do you wrong, So listen to the Back of the Rack. The Michael Spedden Show. Here, I've got my DJ thing down now. The Back of the Rack, the Michael Spedden Show on 97underground.com. Baltimore's Pure Rock Worldwide. Tuesdays, 4 to 6 p.m. Eastern. Don't miss it.
You can be like the king of shameless self-promotion, Mike. You know that.
I am. What do they call me? A hooer, like they would sing in A Bronx Tale, Those guys were the only ones that could make that a 5-syllable word, Your sister's I'm not going to say it again on your show, but,
I know, like I said, the last time when we talked, your whole murder mystery troupe was on hold, but now you get to go back into that and shake hands with the people and everything like that. How does that feel? Was it kind of weird once you started doing it all over again, or did you just kind of fall back into it?
We fell back into it pretty easily. It was great to be back after all that time. But even for that first year, we had to wear masks when we did it. And what we ended up getting were like these plastic see-through masks that we wore. They almost looked like Hannibal Lecter things, but they were clear.
Okay, I think I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, they kind of went over your ears and they came down and they covered your nose. They were plexiglass underneath. And we had to use Fog X on those things and wipe them down so they didn't fog up while we were talking. We survived that the first year, and then when the mask restrictions were taken away and more people got their shots, we haven't worn them since. That was we wore them and we were off in 2021. We wore those, and then 22 we didn't. So yeah. And I had quite a deal. Good couple of years. I've gotten some new people. I've lost a couple of people. Sadly, we lost one of them right when we were supposed to come back from COVID. Sadly, we lost him. He was a good guy. And I've had a couple of people move on to go do other things, but I have a good troop of people. I've had a few new people come in that have worked out very, very well. And I cannot say anything short of being blessed with this whole thing, because I've got a good group of people to work with. I can trust them. They do a good job. The people laugh. The people are happy. And I can't ask for more,
Sure. So now, out of everything that you've been doing, is there anything that kind of stands out the most? I know it's probably a hard choice.
Yeah, well, 97 Underground was kind of a dream come true just because I'd always admired that station. I loved it when I was a teenager. And I'm just having a blast with it right now. I've gotten some voiceover work out of it, as well as I've done some of those commercials for concerts coming around. I did one for Slaughter and a few other ones. And, I'm always happy, to be a professional actor, outside of the work that I get for myself doing murder mysteries, the professional jobs that I get, I just marked 5 years since J.G. Wentworth. Gotham is coming up on 6 years. Kimmy Schmidt, 5 years since we did that one. And I've had a few others along the way. Again, there's a couple I can't mention just because they're not out yet, and we don't have permission to do so.
Right.
That is definitely a challenge. I mean, there is absolutely nothing easy about that line of work. I mean, it's hard to get a job doing that. I mean, that line of work has like a 95% unemployment rate at any given time.
Right.
And it doesn't mean that you're not good. I saw this thing that went around about reasons why you didn't get the part. Your hair is gray. Your hair is not gray. Your hair is red. You're tall. You're short. You're fat. You're old. You're young. You have a beard. You don't have a beard. You're male. You're female. You're heavy. You're thin. All of those things. And it's just so difficult. The amount of people that are trying for these things. And it's not always good enough to be good. Sometimes you just have to have that thing, and they can't always define what that thing is. But when you get a part, there is nothing better than getting that part, and you get a rush, you get out there, and it's almost like, your wedding day. It just goes by, boom, like that.
Yeah.
And then it's over. It's like, you have this thing that you've always wanted, your guests come, you eat, you dance, and then everybody's going home. And you feel like it's just getting started, and sure. And you want to get the next one, you want to get the next job and the next job. And it could be discouraging. It could be disheartening, but I have to say I've got an excellent manager. I have an excellent manager. Name is Georgianne Brucese from CPM Talent Management. And she takes damn good care of us. She's a hard worker. Does everything that she can to make sure that when you get something that you get what you're supposed to get. And she goes to bat for us. And like I said, I could never ask for, but I never even thought I'd get signed by her, Mm-hmm. The way record companies tore me up back in the 80s and 90s, and, no was the story of my life, or don't call us, we'll call you. And then she signed me. I was just like, wow, So I always do my best for me and for her,
Sure.
Always do my best,
Now, as easily as you could pull out 5 great CDs for people to listen to, could you pull out a couple of podcasts that people might want to check out?
Oh, podcasts. Let me see. Well, I had the Sherpa on there, and I had you on there, and I got to tell you, that is just I mean, are you asking me about my favorite episodes I've done, or are you asking me about the podcasts I like to listen to?
Yeah, the ones that you like to listen to.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I do check yours out. I do rotate through and check you. You do a great job. You're an easy guy to talk to. I can tell your guests are having fun.
We try.
I like Mr. Ballen.
Uh-huh.
Mr. Ballen. Let me see. There was another one, and I cannot remember. It was on Wondery, and it had a whole bunch of situations. And one of the episodes on there, they have like a whole bunch of series on there, like 10-part episodes. And one of them was on the USS Indianapolis, and it was just fascinating. It was absolutely fascinating, that story. I think it was called Against All Odds.
Okay.
There's another one I'm listening to right now that I really enjoy. The problem with it was I found out about it like 8 episodes into it, so I got the binge, and now they're still putting out just one a week, and I'm like, come on, and it's called it's about, I think it's called Who Killed JFK,
right, with Rob Reiner and
Rob Reiner's. Yes, yeah, it's great. I thought Oswald was just a guy. I didn't know that all that stuff, with him. I just thought he was a weirdo. I didn't know all these things about him. There
was a lot going on there, my friend.
Yes, there was. A lot going. So you listened to that one too.
I've heard it. Yeah.
Yeah. let me see. And I do listen to other ones. There's a really good, and this one is an older one. The Twilight Zone radio series, and Stacy Keach was the host. And they have, I'd have to say, there's been a number of attempts to revive the Twilight Zone, and I just haven't liked them, for whatever reason. They just haven't recaptured it. But the Twilight Zone, I think it's called the Twilight Zone radio shows or something, where they take the classic episodes, and people like Mike Starr and Jason Alexander and Stacy Keach, and a number of others have done them, and they're very well done. Mm-hmm. Very well done. Good for a nice long ride in the car, Let me see. I do like the Office ladies too. I was a big fan of the Office. I worked with Ellie Kemper on Kimmy Schmidt, and there is a good Office ladies podcast with Jenna Fisher and God, what's her name? The little blonde guy. Why am I I hate when I draw a blank.
I know the reference. I know they were both in the show, and it's like a rewatch of the series.
Right. Yeah, Angela.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, and we have something here, and something that obviously we're very skilled with, my friend. Shameless self-promotion. This is where you can let everybody know where they can reach out and keep track of what's going on with you.
Shameless self-promotion.
Okay, well, you can find me. You can hear my show on 97underground.com Tuesdays from 4 to 6 p.m. You could download the app for free. It's a free download. Foulplayersradio.com. You can look behind me and see how to spell Foul Players Radio. It's spelled like the bird.
Yeah. They can't see it's audio, but it's okay.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Foul Players Radio. If you can't spell radio, then don't listen because you're dumb. Okay. There is the Foul Players of Perryville.com is my murder mystery group. You can look at my IMDB page, Michael Spedden on IMDB. I also just started a 97 Underground, the Michael Spedden Interviews YouTube channel, where I took my radio interviews and put them on there. They have music with them. They're shorter episodes, but they're on YouTube as well. And the Foul Players Radio YouTube channel, where I have my last 2.5 seasons on there, plus a few best ofs, it's youtube.com/@foulplayersradio. And so and if you want to, we're on Buy Me a Cup of Coffee and a couple of other things, but nobody's bought me a cup of coffee yet, so I'm a little hurt. But that's out there too. So all those places you can find us. You can also follow me on 97 Underground has a TikTok that I run. I'm on TikTok as well under Michael Spedden and Foul Players Radio. Michael Spedden, Foul Players Radio, and Back of the Rack are all on X. And I don't stay on X. I just post what I post and leave. I don't get into fights and stuff.
Yeah, I'm like that too.
It's like while you're arguing, read this and listen or something, or come see the show. I don't really take a break from arguing, and that's a good slow. I'm going to use that. Take a break from arguing and listen.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? You'll have a good time. You won't argue anymore. So I'm on there, and I have Instagrams for all of those and Facebook pages for them too. So you can find me all over the place, maybe too many places, just like there's, too much Mike as compared to too many podcasts, right?
Michael Spedden, Foul Players Radio, and all those other things, 97underground.com. Thank you so much for coming on the show. It's good to see you again.
Absolutely, Sherpa. It was great to see you again. Don't be a stranger, bud.
Now it's time for Sherpa Samples. If you've got a podcast you'd like us to sample, contact us, and we'll mention your name on the show.
So, as you may or may not know, Sherpa Samples is the portion of the program where I take my little deep dive into Mount Podcastia and have a sampling of all the podcasts that are out there on the podcast charts and give you a little rundown of what they're all about. In the bunch that I listened to, a lot of them were done in overseas area. They weren't really done in just the United States, such as The News Agents, which are a trio of British reporters. And the episode that I listened to, they were doing a summary of the top news stories in 2023 and their effect on Great Britain. Meghan McCain has entered the chat, is also a political discussion. Meghan McCain, I believe, was one of the panelists on The View, if I'm not mistaken. I don't know if she still is, and is also the daughter of former U.S. Senator John McCain. And she had a gentleman on, and they discussed the situation going on currently, well, at the time of this recording, in Israel. The rest is entertainment. Also a British podcast, and they as well were doing a summary of some of the best stuff that came out in 2023. They Walk Among Us is also British, but it's a British true crime podcast. And the episode that I listened to had to do with the murder of a young woman around the turn of a century. And also, Dark Downeast are true crime stories that take place in the New England area of the United States. And the episode that I listened to for that podcast was an episode about the murder of a young boy who was going fishing in the Connecticut area. Creepcast is hosted by two guys. I don't think they're from Britain. I believe they're from the United States. And they tell a lot of spooky stories. And as the name would suggest. And the story that I heard, I'd never heard this one before, about the Russian sleep experiment. Ooh, I'd never really heard of that story, but it sounded pretty gruesome to me, to be honest with you. So definitely a little creepy there. We Have Ways of Making You Talk is actually a podcast that is hosted by two comedians, and they have a fascination with World War II. And the episode that I listened to was about Sophie Scholl and the White Rose Group, which was a leading figure in the resistance against the Nazis in World War II. I'd never really heard this story, so it was definitely something unique. Hot Money is a podcast that takes on different topics and does a whole bunch of episodes on them. Previously, they had done a season that was about who rules porn. Now it's the rise of the narcos, and it was a discussion of an Irish drug cartel and their rise to power internationally. The Salty podcast would be something that you might think had a lot of foul language in it or a lot of silliness. Actually, it is a religious podcast, and it is hosted by a lady named Devin Cordell, and it is a lot of inspiring talk from her. It is faith-based and oriented towards women listeners as well. So if you are a woman and religious, maybe this is a podcast that might be right up your alley. A little bit of inspiration, never hurt anybody, right? Club Shay, that refers to former football player Shannon Sharpe. This guy is huge. He's a monster. And the episode that I listened to, he has conversations with another former football player named Chad Johnson, who was actually known as Ocho Cinco because of the number 85 on his jersey. Ocho Cinco, get it? See? Yes. And those guys get intense in their arguments, but they were talking about a lot of football, obviously, and a couple of other things as well that they might debate on. But yeah, that guy is intense. I don't want to make Shannon Sharpe mad. I need a really fast car to get away from him, but he still might be able to catch me. I don't know. And lastly, The Weekly Planet is a podcast hosted by two Australian gentlemen who discuss movies, TV shows, books, and comic books, and all sorts of pop culture stuff. And the episode that I listened to, they were discussing the Wonka prequel. You know, Willy Wonka, Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, and all those, and all the little Oompa Loompas. So it was interesting. They were definitely having a lot of fun, and they had a lot of opinions on a lot of different movies. There were some episodes that I didn't get to that I noticed had the title of Caravan of Garbage. So I don't know if that really means that they didn't like them, or maybe they're just a special type of episode. Well, if you want to find out, you'll have to subscribe to that podcast. And I see that the Oompa Loompas are pointing towards me, and they're holding up chocolate. So I guess that's my cue to head on into the outro.
We're on that internet thingy at SherPollution.com.
Hey, very special thanks to Michael Spedden. Make sure you check him out on Fowl Players Radio or 97underground.com. Download that app and hear some rock and roll. And if you like this episode, go to sherpalution.com. Everything is there. You know that. All of the episodes, all the links to any merchandise, and also our social media links on X, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And you just need the word Sherpalution to follow us. It's that simple. If you'd like to leave us a nice review, please do so on Apple Podcasts. And you could be eligible to win podcast merchandise. That's all I've got to really say to you this week, Rebels. I will see you next week with another fresh new episode, wearing some fresh new clothes. I don't know. And I'll probably be drinking my Magic Mind as well. Thank you for listening. And until next time, viva la Sherpalution.
Thanks for listening to Too Many Podcasts. Please disperse. You can go home now. I said you can go home now. Viva la Sherpalution. Viva la Sherpalution. Oh. Yeah, I'll come back now, you hear?
You know, Rebels, if you've been checking out some of my promotional ads on social media, you will be aware that I have been using a lot of AI programs to help me create ads. But you know what? There's a lot more uses for AI than just funny little videos. And I'd like to introduce one of our new sponsors, Podium. It is a leader in creating AI tools for podcasters. Now, let's say you've got a podcast, or maybe you're even thinking of doing a podcast. You're probably wondering, well, how can AI be integrated with your workflow? I'll tell you about Podium. As a podcaster, you know that writing show notes and creating chapters and transcribing episodes takes a lot of time, and it can cost you a lot of money too. But you know what? That's where Podium comes in. It's an AI tool designed specifically for creators and podcasters with the goal of making post-production tasks quick and easy. And in just a few minutes, Podium generates show notes, chapters, summaries, clips for social media, a full transcript, suggested episode titles, social media posts, and more. Whew, that's a lot of work for one little program. Your show notes are key to your podcast's success because it helps new listeners find your podcast and they'll know if it's a fit for them. You know, kind of like Too Many Podcasts. It also improves your SEO. That's your search engine optimization. Ooh, big phrase there. And overall accessibility. And with Podium, you can focus on creating a great podcast and let Podium's AI do the heavy lifting. But Podium isn't just for solo creators and podcasters. It's a game changer for editors, producers, marketers, agencies, and production studios. Teams that use Podiums are able to increase workloads, decrease turnaround times, and improve their quality. How does it work? Very easy. First, go to Podium's website, and you'll see that link that's right there in the show notes. You get 3 hours free just to try it. Pretty cool, huh? And using that link also supports this show as well. And you know what else happens? Because I'm a good guy. You use my link, you will get 50% off for your first month. So visit the site, upload an MP3 file, and download your files, and that's it. And if you need anything else, you can use Podium GPT to generate articles and any marketing copy you might need in seconds. Instant show notes, transcripts, chapters for your podcast or channel. This will level up that podcast. So check out Podium today.